What up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Wyatt. I know I was going to review a few of the Christmas movies individual throughout the month of December, but unfortunately, I did not have enough time to do it. The month went by so quickly. I had stuff to do, especially I was seeing the newer releases for movies, and I just did not have enough time. So I'm going to speed up the process and give you my top 10 favorite Christmas movies of all time. And Christmas is literally a few days away. So I'm going to do my best to keep it short and hopefully that you like my list. So coming in at number 10, A Christmas Story that came out in 1983. I really love this movie. I think this deserves in the number 10 spot. It's one of my all-time favorites growing up as a kid, and this was before my time. So this movie came out in 83, like almost a decade before I was born. So and you're following the story with Ralphie, who wants a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas, a great Christmas gift, something that he will remember for the rest of his life. He's been asking the teachers, his parents, and even Santa Claus, but most of them are saying that you'll shoot your eye out, kid.
I want an official Red Ryder Carbine Action 200 range ball arrow.
No. Shoot your eye out.
My mother must have gotten to Miss Shields. There could be no other explanation.
You'll shoot your eye out! You'll shoot your eye out!
No, I want an official Red Ryder Carbine Action 200 range battle rifle.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
That line was one of the funniest lines in the history of films that will always stick into my brain, and it's one of the most quotable movies. It doesn't really have that much of a plot, but it didn't matter because you really connected with Ralphie and his perspective on the world. A kid who wanted to grow up way too quickly, and it's one of the most relatable stories. You've seen Ralphie and the group of his friends, boys being boys, especially in the scene where his friend stuck his tongue on a flagpole out of peer pressure and out of dare. I triple dog dare ya!
I triple dog dare ya!
Schwartz created a slight breach of etiquette by skipping the triple dare and going right for the throat.
Oh man, one of the great memorable quotes that I can literally recite the lines all day. I don't understand why that they had to replay the same movie over and over again on TV every year on Christmas Day. But whatever it is, what it is, it's always been their tradition. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but I could be wrong. But if you haven't seen A Christmas Story, definitely check this out on Max. It's streaming right now if you don't know already. And I think that this deserves in the number 10 spot. Coming in at number 9, I have How the Grinch Stole Christmas, that is directed by Ron Howard, and it's starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch. One of my childhood movies growing up. I saw this in the theater so many times with my brothers, my cousin, and my aunt. I grew to love this movie. I remember growing up watching the animated short Christmas special of the How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And that was the source material that was based on a short children's book of the Dr. Seuss's book of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's funny that Hollywood was able to take that short story and make this into a 2-hour movie, and Ron Howard really delivered it. Especially they gave us something a little fresh and new, something we haven't seen before. Especially when we got a origin story of the Grinch, knowing that he was just a misunderstood character that was treated so wrong by the people of Whoville, and that's why he hated Christmas so much, and why he wants people in Whoville be miserable and not have a great time during Christmas, and why he wants to steal all the presents and gifts during on Christmas Eve. And we see that Cindy Lou Who is a child character that really saw the Grinch as a misunderstood person and doesn't deserve to be alone on Christmas, and deserves to have love and joy and bringing the people, loved ones, in together. And the Grinch was a great character study. Jim Carrey really embodied it and really made it his own and owned it.
The Grinch!
You don't imagine anybody else playing that role if they ever wanted to retell the same story in a TV or a film itself. The production value was great. The world building of Whoville was so fantastic and unique. I really dug Jim Carrey's performance. He was so funny, and he improvised a lot of the lines of the movie, and it worked. It was well delivered.
Hello, little girl.
How dare you enter the Grinch's lair!
And there's a lot of moments in this film that didn't feel age appropriate, that felt a little shady and dark at times. But you know what? It was in the early 2000s that they were able to get away with. And this was one of my first DVDs that I got back then when DVDs became a big thing at the time. And I loved what they did with the special features and the makeup design with Jim Carrey was so fantastic, but it took him hours to put on that makeup together. But it is, according to Jim Carrey, that was a big challenge for him, especially with acting on standpoint. Definitely check out How Did the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's such a fantastic movie that it deserves to be in the number 9 spot, in my opinion. Oh, and one more thing that I forgot to mention. You got Anthony Hopkins narrating the whole story. Like, that's just crazy. Very odd, but you know what? It's Anthony Hopkins. He's such a legendary actor that really sold it. And you recognize his voice from a mile away if you're an Anthony Hopkins fan. Coming in at number 8, I got Elf, that is directed by Jon Favreau before he directed the first Iron Man movie that jump-started the MCU and resurrected Robert Downey Jr.'s career. I loved Elf. It's one of the cult classic Christmas movies that I will watch every year. Will Ferrell really embodied of adult who has the mind of a child who grew up in the North Pole all of his life as an elf and didn't really quite fit in, and goes to New York and meet his biological father, the character who is a workaholic publisher and very jaded and is on a naughty list. And he doesn't want to have anything to do with his biological son. And he thinks he's weird and odd and very childish. And he just doesn't want to have anything to do with them. He focuses on too much on work off. And Will Ferrell really delivered the charm and funny personality. This was an actor that was at his prime as a comedic actor. Great visuals, very heartfelt, emotional, funny, and charming. Zoe Deschanel, who was playing the love interest in this movie, I thought her chemistry between her and Will Ferrell was fantastic. And the most funniest line, the most quotable movie that will always stand the test of time, when Will Ferrell just yells out Santa and was so excited that he was coming to the mall.
All morning, 10 a.m. Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him. I know him.
Oh my God, this film is so damn good. Jon Favreau did a great job of directing the film. If you haven't seen yet, you definitely should. This definitely deserves in a number 8 spot for me. Coming in at number 7, Klaus. That is a Christmas Netflix movie in a very underrated film that not enough people talk about. This took me by surprise, that a film that I had zero interest in it. And I think that this movie should get a lot of mention, and I think you should definitely watch it. You're following this postman played by Jason Schwartzman, who is the worst student and is forced to go into this a small town in the village to post as many letters so that he can return home. But then he meets up with this carpenter played by J.K. Simmons, and he's playing the character Klaus, who befriends him and helps him makes toys and deliver the gifts to the children after they write letters to them personally. Yes, I understand where this is going. This is literally a retelling origin story of the Santa Claus aspect. And the Jasper meets up with this a teacher played by Rosanna Jones, and they have a love interest. And I felt very connected with this story. This is a movie that kids and adults can enjoy, and you should definitely watch it. It definitely hits on a deeper level, especially with the character's Klaus's backstory. J.K. Simmons acted the hell out of it. It had a great score, a hell of a soundtrack. The animation is absolutely beautiful, an animation that we don't often quite get now today. And this is a movie that I would watch every year on a holiday, and I wish more people have watched it. If you haven't watched Klaus on Netflix yet, you should. It is a must watch, in my opinion, and this deserves in the number 7 spot. Coming in at number 6, I got Bad Santa, that came out in 2003. I freaking love this movie. Yes, it's not made for kids. This is an R-rated comedy that you're following Billy Bob Thornton's character, who is a miserable drunk con man and who's posing himself as Santa, and his partner, who's posing himself as an elf, played by Tony Cox. And every year on Christmas Eve, they rob the department store. And later in the film, they run into trouble when a con man befriends with a troubled kid who gets bullied all the time. But then they run into another trouble with the head of the security of the mall, played by Bernie Mac, and now he's onto them of their scam, and now he wants 50-50 what they're stealing. Throughout the film, you see Billy Bob Thornton, who is a miserable drunk. He has no problem cussing out a bunch of children when he's posing himself as Santa.
What are you doing? God damn it!
Nintendo Deer Hunter 3.
Shit, what you want? What do you want?
Fraggle Stick Car.
The fuck is that?
He has no shame of it whatsoever. He hates himself so much. He hates the world. He hates everybody. He feels like he doesn't deserve any joyful in his life whatsoever. Every year he drinks himself to death, and he's a womanizer that bangs women all the time, and he has no shame. And the longer he's befriended with this troubled kid who gets bullied all the time, the more he starts to have more sympathy. Now he wants to have a purpose, and this kid is the reason why he's given himself a purpose and a little bit of a redemption. I love Billy Bob Thornton's performance. He really sold it. He owned that role. A film that they will never make a movie like that today. I guarantee you they would never do anything like this. And Tony Cox, who's playing the partner, I thought he really sold it. He's a character that is the brains of this operation, but he's always calling his partner out all the time. He knows he's getting worse, and he's becoming a problem. The only reason he needs him because he's the only guy who can break in the safe like it's nothing. He's the master of breaking into that lock and safe. So this is a film you should definitely check out. It deserves in a number 6 spot for me. I love this movie. I quote this movie all the time. I recite the lines. It's a quote that will always stick into my head for a long time. It's the movie that I would watch every year on Christmas. Coming in at number 5, I got Jingle All The Way. I know I'm not just going to say that this is a great film, but it's one of the most fun, entertaining Christmas movies that I love watching every year. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the role of a businessman who is a father, and Jamie, who was played by Jake Lloyd before he got cast in the role of Anakin Skywalker of the Phantom Menace. He wants a Turbo Man doll for Christmas, and he says that if he doesn't get this action figure, he would be miserable and a loser to everyone in school. And it's the most high-selling action figure in the world, and that's his favorite superhero of all time that he watches on that cheap TV budget. And Arnold said that he would definitely get that Christmas gift for him, but little do we know that Rita Wilson's character, who was playing the wife, reminded him that he should have got that doll a couple of weeks ago, and he completely forgot to get the goddamn doll. So, and during Christmas Eve, it is impossible now to get this doll. So now he's gonna have to go to every store around the town to make sure to get that doll, because he's afraid if he doesn't get that Turbo Man, his son will hate him forever. That's what he's afraid of. This movie is more focusing on the adult's perspective. If you really look back and watch the film, the whole core of the film is how far are you willing to go to get a great Christmas gift for your child, to make sure that they love you forever, for giving them a gift. And that's what this film really is. And you meet up with Sinbad's character, who is a mailman who was after the same Turbo Man doll. He's a self-pity, obnoxious character, but he's a character that you really enjoy. He's the type of character that would be on your side for a minute, but then once there's a Turbo Man doll, he would turn against you without even thinking twice about it. And their confrontation is so hilarious. The physical comedy is so good, and it's another comedic role that Arnold Schwarzenegger really delivers. And there's a lot of quotable lines that I can recite all day long. It's turbo time. It's got the rocket stock and jetpacks. I got it. I got it. Oh man, I know it's not my best impersonation. It is what it is, but then we see Phil Hartman's character, who is playing the neighbor Ted, who's a handyman around the neighborhood here, but he's been trying so hard to bang Arnold's wife so bad. He's trying to play the father figure and playing the house husband in this movie. But I thought Phil Hartman really delivered it. And R.I.P. to Phil Hartman, who was a Saturday Night Live comedic actor. Yes, there's a lot of kick to the balls, punching a deer, fighting a bunch of Santa Claus in a crazy factory, and Arnold Schwarzenegger being Turbo Man at the parade. I think that it was it had heartfelt moments. Yeah, there's a lot of scenes that were so outrageous and stupid, but you know what? It's one of those films that you can just be entertained and enjoy it for what it is. I think that this deserves in the number 5 spot, and if you haven't seen Jingle All The Way, you should definitely watch it. It's on Disney Plus right now. This is one of the most funniest movies I've seen, and the movie that I would watch every year and recite the lines, especially with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Don't you forget, you're my number 1 customer.
Coming in at number 4, I got National Lampoon's A Christmas Vacation, a film that I have not watched the first 2 National Lampoon's movie for Vacation and European Vacation, and this is supposed to be the 3rd installment of the franchise. But this is one of the National Lampoon movies that you can just watch on its own as a standalone movie because it's very self-contained and you don't have to watch the previous 2 Vacation movies to know what's happening. You're following with the Griswold family that are preparing for a family seasonal Christmas special family get together but it doesn't run smoothly. They had the worst luck when they're with Clark's obnoxious, crazy family, but he's willing to keep going because he knows that he's going to get that Christmas bonus check that he's been wanting to get for a while so that he can afford to get a swimming pool for his wife and kids. Chevy Chase really delivered a great physical comedy in the dialogue, especially his big monologue rant that he did in this movie when he did not get his bonus check for Christmas, which was hilarious. And for those of you who thought that he improvised that line, according to the actress who played the wife in the movie, he did not improvise. That was in the script, but he could not memorize the script because the monologue was so long and so difficult to remember. So they had a bunch of actors behind the camera having a bunch of cards like hanging around their neck so that he can read, because if you pay attention when he's moving his head around, he's literally reading the cards of the lines when he's going on a big rant during his monologue. And Chevy Chase really nailed it. It was one of the most funniest movies. A film, the concept on paper would not have worked, but in the context it actually did. It was well sold. The comedic tone really delivered. A film that they will never make a movie like that today, but it's a movie that we will always look back and cherish and have fun during the holidays. And I loved it. I love spending time with the Griswolds. I really felt connected with them, even though that they do a lot of stupid things. But you know what? It's one of those characters that done stupid things, but you really still had a lot of cheerful, heartfelt moments. And that's what it really did. It didn't try so hard to be so slapstick comedy. You can add a lot of slapsticks, but you need to add the heart and emotional weight to this film to sell this movie. If you haven't seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, you should definitely check it out. It's so damn good. It's streaming right now on Max if you haven't known that already. Coming in at number 3, I got Tim Allen's The Santa Claus that came out in 1994. I really adore this movie so much. I mean, most of you are wondering why this is in your top 3 list. Well, because I love Tim Allen in the role. I thought he really sold a lot of the jokes. This was him at his prime as a comedic actor. He was coming off of the heels of the Home Improvement sitcom series, which I loved, and I thought he really sold this role. He's a businessman who doesn't really connect with his son as much until on Christmas Eve. He scares Santa half to death on the roof and accidentally falls off the roof. He inadvertently kills Santa Claus. He takes the Santa Claus jacket and he delivers the presents. And as they finish their delivering their presents, they go up to the North Pole and he refuses to take responsibility as Santa. It was overwhelming to him and he doesn't think he can live up to that potential. But throughout the whole movie, he's going through a crazy transformation of becoming Santa Claus, and Charlie really believes that he is Santa Claus, and everyone else doesn't believe him. They think he's brainwashed by his dad, and the ex-wife thinks that he's has a bad influence on him, and he's fighting legal troubles, getting the custody of his son Charlie. Yeah, it's a little bit more darker than you expected, and it doesn't seem like age appropriate at times, but at the time, it's definitely a heartwarming story. It's funny, it's charming. I really adore this film. I love the father and son relationship between the two of them. I thought they kept it so grounded and so believable without being too much of a slapstick comedy and going too over the top. Tim Allen really didn't hold anything back on a lot of these jokes. He can be a very smart ass, but at the same time his heart is in the right place. And throughout the whole movie, he realized that he needs to take responsibility to becoming the next Santa Claus and delivering the presents around the world and in getting the people to believe in him. It's a great movie. I loved it, and I think that deserves in my top 3 spot. Now coming in at number 2, I got Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. I really love the sequel, a great follow-up to the first one. Yeah, you can arguably say that this is easily a carbon copy of the original Home Alone movie. Yeah, Kevin is getting ganged up by his family again, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with them. Then one day, once they go to the airport and they're going to Florida on a Christmas trip, he gets set on the wrong plane and he gets sent into New York, and that's where the location's taking place. He's not accidentally left at home. Now he's in a different location, and now he's going to be dealing with Harry and Marv, played by by Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci again. Now he's gonna have to step up and stop the burglars for stealing the charity money to the Duncan's toy chest. This is one of the most heartwarming, funniest comedy movies I've seen. This movie came out a couple of months after I was born. I didn't watch it during the theatrical run because I was only a baby at the time, and I watched this over like on repeat on VHS. I thought it was an entertaining movie. Sure, the first Home Alone movie is a better made movie, but I thought that Christopher Columbus and the John Hughes did a good follow up to the first one. It could have been just one of those like a cheap throwaway sequels, but you know what? This definitely still delivered the good magic and the good vibe to it. Macaulay Culkin again continues to shine, and I love the booby traps. The booby traps, they took it way up a notch and go so over the top, but the physical comedy worked. Harry and Marv would have been dead, especially with Marv getting hit by the flying bricks like 10 times in this movie. There's no way he would have survived that. You see him getting electrocuted by a high voltage, Marv getting hit by a bunch of tools, seeing him getting his head on fire again, and then sticks his head in the toilet, gives himself a swirly, but also getting blown up with a full of gasoline in it. Yeah, there are many times in this movie that they could have died, but you know what? The physical comedy worked, and they delivered it, and it didn't really matter. We just turn our brains off. If you're showing this to your kids, please let them know to never try anything like this if you're setting up a booby trap against the burglars. It does have some heartwarming moment with Catherine O'Hara and Macaulay Culkin's screen time when they reunite again, and I got choked up. John Williams still continues the great score, and you got Tim Curry and Rob Schneider being an addition to the movie, who was one of the people who were in charge of the Plaza Hotel. I thought they delivered the good humor. Rob Schneider was not really famous at the time. He was still just a working actor at the time, and I thought Tim Curry really delivered the comedic tone. He was coming off of the heels the TV film that he did with Pennywise as It. Overall, I love this movie. I think this deserves in the #2 spot. It is the most entertaining, funniest movie than the first one, and I think this deserves in the #2 spot. Now coming in at #1, which most of you already know what my #1 favorite Christmas movie of all time. It is the original Home Alone film. I couldn't believe how much I love this movie, and I'll be honest with you, at the time when I watched the first one, I watched it after I saw the second movie a little bit of a years later, and I don't know why, but I watched it out of order. But you got Kevin McAllister, who's an 8-year-old kid who is getting gained up on his family. He gets left behind by accident on Christmas when they were taking the trip to Paris, and now he's a man of the house, and now he has all the house to himself, and he's so happy and relieved that they're not around.
I made my family disappear.
And he's going nuts and eating all the junk food, but then he comes across with the two burglars, with Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci, who is Harry and Marv, the one who's going to be invading his own house. Yeah, this is one of the most charming, great Christmas movie. Christopher Columbus, who's the director of the film, the man who directed the first 2 Harry Potter movies. This was before he did Harry Potter movies, and this is the film that really put the director's name on the map, and it really made Macaulay Culkin a big major child movie star as a child actor, because before that he was just a working actor working on small roles. Before this he did another John Hughes movie that was always directed by him, that he made with Uncle Buck with John Candy, and John Candy made an appearance in this movie, and I thought he was such a great addition. Catherine O'Hara was playing the mother of Kevin McAllister. I thought she was such a great character. I thought she after she realized that she left him at home by accident, she was willing to do whatever it takes to get back to Chicago and get home to her son. And she's willing to do whatever it takes.
If I have to sell my soul to the devil himself, I am going to get home to my son.
she delivered a great comedy, and she had some heartwarming moments in this movie, and she was one of those characters that had full of regrets and looking back on what she could have done differently when she last saw Kevin. And Kevin is going to have to step up and be the man of the house. And yeah, the more he's alone on Christmas, the more he really wants his family back. His greatest Christmas gift is getting his family back. That's all he really wants. Now Kevin is going to have to step up and set up the booby traps and protect his territory from the two burglars, Harry and Marv. I thought Harry and Marv had a great chemistry. Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci really sold the role. They are the wet bandits. Even Marv is such an imbecile who's willing to leave his territory by overflowing the house of every house they break into. And the booby traps is so funny. Yeah, you see the Harry getting shot by the BB gun in the balls, and then you see Harry and Marv slipping on the ice on the steps. You've seen a lot of bunch of booby traps that were so funny that it would never work. The only logical choice that Kevin should have done differently is call the cops. That's about it. But then the movie would have ended so quickly. Then where's the comedy of seeing them walking into a booby trap? Could Kevin be a Jigsaw? There's a theory going on that he could potentially be the Jigsaw. But you know what? That's just a fun theory that the fans like to come up with. Overall, this is one of the funniest, great, heartwarming Christmas movie, and it's a film that I will always watch every year. It's a great Christmas tradition. It's one of the Christmas classic movies of all time, and I think this deserves in the #1 spot. Now, what is your top 10 favorite Christmas movies? Your list could be completely different from mine. Your list doesn't have to be the same. Because here's the thing, tomorrow or the next day or next year, my list can completely change entirely. There are so many Christmas movies that I have that I didn't make it into my top 10 that I wish it was in my top 10. Do you agree with my list, or do you disagree with my list? Let me know in the comments section below and give me your list of your top 10 favorite Christmas movies. I hope you guys have an incredible holiday season with the family, but I hope you guys stay safe and have a great Christmas and a happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.